Okay guys, I'm right back with the next part. Okay, I've talked about the fans and the 360 rad. One thing I would like to mention further while we're talking about that 360 and just general, I obviously told you that I had to use these extension fittings to get these barbs, not the barbs, sorry, the compression fittings a bit lower and enable me to fit that fan. Now, while we're talking about the fittings and compression fittings and extension fittings and fittings in general, as you know already, I used ½ inch inner diameter tubing all around my water build. I discovered only kind of at the very last moment when I received these extension fittings something never I paid attention to, and I wasn't aware of that, and that's kind of a schoolboy error, which I should have really queried, but it seems not leaving any bad or noticeable bad effect on my system so far, and everything seems to be everything's been running pretty good so far, and the temperature's been good. But what I'm trying to say here, guys, is the inner diameter in these compression fittings and extension fittings are actually different. So when I looked at the bog standard ½ inch barb fitting, the inner diameter of that barb fitting measures, I think, if I recall correctly, sorry, get my teeth back. If I recall correctly, I think the inner diameter on a barb fitting measures about 10 millimeters. Okay, then on these compression fittings here, be it at 45 degree or 90 degree, the inner diameter is actually about 7 millimeters. Okay, and then these extension fittings, they are actually only 5 millimeters inner diameter because of the way they built, the compression fitting works. So if you're using the barb fittings, you don't really sacrificing the flow at all. And yes, sorry, what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that obviously because of the narrower fittings, you will sacrifice your water flow, and as you know, the flow is king when it comes to water cooling. So that's something to bear in mind, and especially if you're using maybe a radiators that is not particularly great performers, or you're using only push or pull configuration, then you have to bear in mind that if you start using the compression fittings and extension fittings, you will be cutting back your flow, and you're not going to be getting as good flow as you might think you will be getting, as in my case, which I wasn't aware of. So bear that in mind. So there is some restrictions when it comes to things like compression fittings and extension fittings. So yeah, so just be aware, guys, so keep that in mind. Okay, I'm moving forward. So we talked about the top rod, the back one here, which is 120. There is no really a major, or there wasn't really a major issues with that as well. The kind of was concern on top here whether it's going to fit or not, but as you can see, the space there it's actually is really tight there, but it's all kind of worked out fine. As I said again already, sorry, I have to use extension fitting there to get that little piece there to come out a bit and enable me to fit that push fan. And then the bottom was fine there, I used the compression fitting underneath there, and that all clear there. Well, it wasn't really a major problem because my motherboard allowed me to still get around the problem. Maybe, yes, maybe it was the problem, but in my case it wasn't really. As you see on the bottom there, I was trying to show you earlier on, I used the Asus sound card, and that's the box there actually. Let me just zoom in. I can't mind what it was called. Here we go, that's zooming in there. Focusing, maybe not, I'll try there. There we go. That's a DX, Asus DX card I'm using. It was actually that card originally sitting, you cannot probably see properly, here we go, you can see it through there. Well, the camera is kind of getting funny there. There is a slot on there, and it was sitting here on top, but once I put that radiator in, it was actually in the way of of the radiator. So what I did I ended up moving that card down there in the PCI Express slot, which is not used for anything really. So yeah, it fits there fine and works fine, so no problems at all there. So that's kind of the only thing, you know, was kind of getting in the way and whatnot. So, but I got around. So yeah, you know, if I obviously would have had a shorter motherboard with not as many PCI or PCI Express slots, then yeah, that could have been a problem. I probably would have ended up sacrificing my sound card for better work cooling, but in this case it all worked out fine. Now, while I'm talking about the motherboard and PCI slots and whatnot, that's the very reason I was mentioning earlier on I might not be able to go for that OCZ Revo PCI compatible SSD, because I have no means of installing it, because, you know, that's it. There's nothing else I can install, you know, 2 graphics cards and sound card. So I can always pull out the sound card and use that last slot for that OCZ Revo SSD, but I haven't really decided whether that's a really thing I want to do or not, but I'll sleep on it and see what's going to happen. So it's, you know, it's kind of a question here whether I want a good or better sound on my computer, or I want a better SSD speeds. So yeah, I have to really decide and you know, make a decision what's going to work best for me. Okay, I'm cutting this video now, guys, but obviously I'm going to make straight away another one to talk about further things. Okay, thank you.